In this video, I'll be covering as many tips and tricks for Arc Raiders as I could gather for a range of skill levels, all the way from absolute beginners to topside hotshots. No more beating around the bush with this one, let's jump right in with tip number 1. Okay, tip number 1. You might be tempted to rush through the tutorial as quickly as possible, but it is worth picking up whatever you can find. If you drop all of your items just before you interact with this door and get knocked out by the hostile raiders, you'll be able to pick them all back up again, and anything you pick up after this cutscene will carry forward into your permanent inventory to help give you a bit of a head start. Now, this is totally optional, of course. You could just rush through this as quickly as possible if you'd prefer, but it's nice to know that you can keep everything if you decide to have a look around. If you find yourself having to breach through a door, try to do so at an angle and place yourself towards the edge of the door itself. This will allow you to look over your shoulder while you are breaching, just in case anyone comes walking up behind you and you have to react quickly to stay alive. When falling from a great height in Arc Raiders, there's one way you can survive that's super easy to pull off. Find an object you can mantle onto along the path of your fall, and once you start your jump, hold spacebar and aim for that ledge or object you want to mantle, and your raider should catch themselves before you hit the ground. This can save you from being backed into a corner more times than you might think, and hostile raiders often won't even know how you managed to get down from a height so quickly, giving you time to slip away. Extract locations in Arc Raiders have timers, and once those timers reach 0, they are no longer available for use. This naturally funnels other raiders to fewer and fewer extract locations as time goes on, making this the riskiest part of any journey topside. This is where hatch keys come in. One use only, but offering you an easy way out that's quiet and instantaneous. The hatch can be used for groups, however it only stays open for a short time, so make sure you're not hanging around after you complete the animation to open the hatch.
Oh, where's that? I hear the spider. It's scary. Ah.
Audio is key in Arc Raiders. Everything has its own very distinctive sound, and you can use that to your advantage when identifying the types of enemies you're up against, their numbers, and if there are any raiders present in your surroundings. Security cameras, car alarms, metal detectors, flocks of birds, and even broken down androids can give away the location of a hostile raider, so pay attention to those audio cues and listen carefully. Certain items can be used to distract the Arc enemies using sound, or even draw them to other players, like the lure grenades, for example. Arc enemies will often drop power cells when defeated. These can be used to recharge your shields and are especially useful if you find yourself running low on medical supplies during a trip to the surface. They also go towards crafting more effective shield recharges when in Speranza, so keep collecting them. You'll need all you can get, especially if you like to PvP. Another item that's worth stockpiling early on are the Arc drivers or pods. You'll get these from every Arc enemy and will not only be used to complete quests, but also to upgrade your workbenches further down the line. You're going to need a lot of them, so don't be afraid to go topside with the sole purpose of shooting down some robots. Keycards can be used to unlock specific rooms that are either loot heavy or important for certain quest lines. The keys are consumed on use and do not spawn in specific locations. That means that you can expect to find them just about anywhere and are definitely worth saving when you come across them. Night raids have an increased chance to spawn keys, but there's more Arc patrols too, so it's a risk-reward scenario there. To add to my last tip about night raids having increased loot, something you should definitely consider is saving your keycards for these raids specifically. The increased loot also affects keycard locked rooms, meaning that an already powerful loot spawn will have even greater items than it would have in a daytime raid, and it is a fantastic way to get your hands on more powerful equipment. If you come across one of these small boxes, they are called field crates and can be inserted into a machine like this one for a reasonable amount of supplies. Usually this contains usable items like ammunition, grenades, medical items, or even weaponry. If you find a machine like this, scavenge the nearby buildings and you'll probably find at least 1 or 2 field crates nearby. You can harvest a wide range of plant life when topside, so keep an eye out for blinking outlines around certain flowers or plants. Most of them can be used for medicinal items. You can also find these small trees that can be shaken to make them drop fruits like lemons or apricots, which you'll need relatively early on to upgrade Scrappy to level 3. Arc enemies will always have their weaknesses, even if they don't appear to at first. The most common is the rotors on the flying arc bots, but even tougher enemies like the Bastion can be exploited by flanking them and focusing damage on the yellow highlighted areas of their joints or on their back armor plate. As a general rule, the tougher arc enemies will require at least some explosive weaponry or grenades to defeat them, so make sure to come prepared with items like Wolfpack grenades if you can, or at the very least a lot of ammunition, because you don't want to end up in a similar situation to what we did with this Bastion. When you're moving downhill, you can cover distance faster by utilizing the slide mechanic. Your momentum will carry you forward and even increase your movement speed in some cases. Not only that, but you can actually regenerate stamina during this time as well. It is a great way to keep moving and recover for a sprint at the same time. When dropping from a height, you can reduce damage or negate damage entirely by rolling just when you're about to hit the ground. It's worth noting this does not seem to work when taking a larger fall, so don't go thinking you can jump off a 5-story building, for example, but you might be able to get away with a 2-story drop. You can do this with either the Alt or C keys by default. Workstations are the backbone of crafting in Arc Raiders and will give you access to everything from medical supplies to weapons and armor. If you're interested in progressing as quickly as possible, this is where you should focus your efforts when scavenging supplies. You'll need to upgrade them to higher levels to craft better gear, and this is where tracking resources can come in handy. This will add a small icon to any item you find while topside that will help towards a craft or upgrade that you've bookmarked. Item durability in Arc Raiders isn't just an indication of how soon it will need repairs. As durability reduces, you'll experience malfunctions, weapons may take longer to reload, for example, so it's always a good idea to keep your equipment maintained. The last thing you want is for an item to break on you at a crucial moment. Now, you likely already know that you can hold Q to bring up the quick use item wheel, and tapping Q will simply equip the last quick slot item that you used. What you might not know is that if you continue to tap Q repeatedly, you'll cycle through each of your quick use items in order, which is helpful if you don't want to bring the big radial menu up on your screen or always keep your usable items in a set structure. Do not pass up on looting seeds. They may not seem very valuable at first glance, but they can be traded at a 1-to-1 ratio for other tier 1 crafting items like chemicals, fabrics, and metal, plastic, or rubber parts. In larger quantities, they can be put towards even the rarest of materials in trade. They also stack up to 100 in a single inventory slot, which makes them incredibly versatile. Now, this is a tip for anyone that played the first couple of beta tests. In-round crafting is no longer available by default to every raider, and you need to specifically take the trait that enables this on the survival skill tree. As such, I'd recommend grabbing this as quickly as you can, since crafting often helps you consolidate your inventory on the fly or craft bandages when you need them most. When topside, keep an eye out for arc probes descending from the sky, or listen out for them making this very distinctive sound. These can give you some useful arc supplies that often go towards things like crafting shields. Arc couriers, which appear as these smoking wreckages, will often have similar loot. Lastly, keep an eye out for these stations that can be used to call in supply drops, but beware that you will send out a flare that can reveal your location while you wait for the drop to arrive. On a similar token, there are buried raider caches that you can find in the world, often just in the middle of nowhere sitting in the dirt. These caches can give you green, blue, or even purple rarity gear, and also have a distinctive sound that can be used to find its exact location when you are nearby. These can be found at an increased rate during the uncovered caches modifier, but these ones explode after a time, which is why you can hear some ticking in this clip, demonstrating the audio effects that you need to listen out for when a cache is nearby. make sure you're paying attention to map modifiers. These are time limited and can be everything from increased amounts of seeds to electromagnetic storms or the massive harvester event boss known as the Queen. Certain items from each of the traders will have a limited quantity and are refreshed every so often. You'll want to pay attention to these items because they can include some incredibly useful things like hatch keys, grenades, and even shields. Do not underestimate the use of smoke grenades. No, they aren't going to kill anyone, but they have a ton of uses, especially if you're in danger, which is going to be a lot. You can use them for things like covering a raider body while you loot them, filling up an extract with smoke so any other raiders trying to stop you can't actually see you, and of course escaping from combat safely. Salvaging and recycling will be incredibly important for getting you off the ground as quickly as possible in Ark Raiders. Knowing how salvaging works in particular will help you maximize your looting efficiency while topside by consolidating items. When you first start playing, you'll need quite a large amount of metal, rubber, and plastic parts, as well as fabric and chemicals. Rather than keeping all of those green or blue quality items you find, you could be better off salvaging some of them by right-clicking and breaking them down into those components that you'll need for crafting your workstations. Keep in mind that if you get those green or blue items back to Speranza, you can break them down for more materials. So salvaging does have its downsides, but early on you'll be thankful for those extra inventory slots while you're topside. Free loadouts are well worth using, especially during this early stage of the game where the free gear is pretty much on the same level with what most players are going to be using. If you return safely to Speranza with a free loadout, it's also worth noting that the free loadout augment can be traded at a 1-to-1 ratio with Lance for a Mark 1 augment. Right at the top of your stash window, there are two little buttons that are often overlooked by many players. You can use this one to completely empty your backpack into your stash with one click after you come back from a trip topside, and the one just beside it to merge any stackable items. Doing this once in a while may help you free up some additional stash space. Avoiding Ark enemies is often a much better call than engaging in a fight with them. Even weaker ones could draw more attention than you initially wanted. Crouching will make you less noticeable to Ark, and it's also worth noting that you can use foliage to your advantage. Hiding in bushes or using tree cover works incredibly well against patrolling bots. Just so you understand correctly, a yellow light means that they've heard or seen something and are investigating that disturbance, and a red light, of course, means they found a raider and are actively engaging them. If you attract unwanted attention, just lay low for a while and they'll go back to their patrol path in no time. If you're playing Ark Raiders with some friends, it can be useful to know that anyone in your party can complete quest objectives for you. For example, if your teammate kills an Ark enemy you need for a quest, it will still count towards your total kill count, even though it wasn't you specifically who killed it. Just because a container has already been looted doesn't mean it's totally useless. Even if someone has got to the loot first, checking an empty container will still grant you experience points to help you level up. This can be very helpful in the early game especially, with all that XP going towards more skill points. So if somebody has already opened that locked loot room you were going for, it's still worth a look around if you've got the patience for it. Under the accessibility options, it's actually possible to change your crosshair entirely and customize it to your liking. Select the option that reads Override Crosshair Shape, and from there you can start changing everything from the shape itself to whether it has a center dot, and much more. You can change the direction you are traveling on a zipline at any time, which can be helpful if an enemy appears at the location you were originally headed for. Simply turn around, jump, and hit E to reattach yourself to the zipline. You should find that you start to travel in the direction that you are now facing. Now, if you're downed by raiders or Ark at the extract, you might think your time is up and that's it for you. However, there is still one last hope to get back to Speranza that you should absolutely know about. Crawl over to an extract terminal while you're downed, and you'll find that you are still actually able to interact with it, allowing you to leave the raid safely and keep all of your hard-earned loot. On similar lines to the last tip in this video, it's worth knowing that if the timer reaches 0 in a raid after you've hit the button to initiate an extract, your game won't end and you'll be able to finish extracting. So if you're dashing for the extract at the last minute, don't give up. As long as you make it to the button, you'll be safe. It's worth knowing that ammunition in your safe pocket can still be used by your active weapons. If you're not bringing anything valuable into a run with you, consider putting your ammo there instead, just in case you get knocked out in the early stages. This is going to be especially useful later when you start using weapons like the Hull Cracker, which uses valuable launcher ammo, worth considerably more than the other ammunition types. The Vita Spray item, which is a high-tier medical item that heals you if you haven't come across them just yet, has a total durability number. Now, why is that important? Well, that means that it can be repaired, essentially providing you with an infinitely reusable healing item as long as you make it out alive. Combine this with clever use of your safe pocket, and the efficiency on this item can be amazing. Weapons and equipment that you find in raid will often come with lower maximum durability, and items with lower durability will have a lower total sale price. What's particularly good to know here is that dismantling a lower durability item will still grant the same amount of materials as if it were full durability. So before you sell something that's damaged, consider recycling it instead. When approaching an extraction, take a second to look around for traps as you get near to the terminal. It doesn't happen very often, but some raiders have started placing a combination of stun, gas, and explosive traps in an attempt to ambush players that have already filled up on valuable loot. Something else you should be on the lookout for when extracting is the corpses of other raiders inside the extract itself. I can't tell you how many times I've rushed into an extract, started using the terminal, only to notice that a dead body is a few feet away from me at the very last moment. Other raiders may not have had the chance to loot these bodies in the chaos of their own extraction sequences, so it's worth checking them out if you think it's safe to do so. My last tip for this video is to remember that Ark Raiders doesn't just sell itself as an extraction shooter, it's an extraction adventure game, and picking fights with other players isn't the only option. You might find that other raiders will be willing to team up with you under the right circumstances, especially if they are in a difficult situation at the time. In my first 10 hours alone, I've been able to form several tentative alliances with other players that needed a helping hand, especially around extract locations. Choose carefully, consider your options, and remember that there's always more than one option on the table. So hopefully you've come away from this video having learned at least a couple of new things. If you know something that I missed and may benefit other players, make sure to drop your advice down in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.